Alright, so today we're going to be drawing negative space using leaves to create the space. We're focusing on the space in between the leaves, and we're trying to look at that and draw that as opposed to drawing the leaves. We're going to set up our format to start. For this, you can just lay your viewfinder down on top of your drawing paper and trace around the borders. And then you'll get a box that's the same size as your viewfinder, which is the goal. We're going to measure and mark at the 4-inch point. And we're going to do the same thing at the bottom and then connect them. And what we're doing here is just trying to get our crosshairs for the drawing, which will divide the drawing up into 4 sections, make it a little easier to measure things and check positioning. So we'll connect those 2 marks at the 4-inch lines. And now we want to make a horizontal line halfway. So we're going to mark at the 5-inch line on both sides and then connect the marks. So now we should have 4 different quadrants breaking up the drawing format. And we're going to use those crosshairs and where the negative spaces intersect with them to help break up the drawing and make it easier to measure. So now we're going to add the same thing to our viewfinder here. We're going to do it the exact same way. We're going to measure across the top and the bottom to the 4-inch point. We're going to mark that both on the top and the bottom, and then we're going to connect them together. Once we do that, we should have a vertical dividing line and a horizontal dividing line. And now we should end up with a matching viewfinder and drawing format. There we go. I'm going to move this over here. And next we'll do the leaves. So we're basically just going to take probably 2 sprigs of leaves and lay them on top of a blank piece of paper to create some negative spaces. This is all about creating the spaces. We don't want to get too nuts with the spaces we make. We want to keep them fairly simple, but at least complex enough to be interesting. The whole point here is to learn how to draw something by drawing the space that surrounds it. So now we're going to start drawing in the negative spaces. The negative spaces are the white areas that we can see where the blank paper underneath is showing through. So we want to pay attention to those shapes. The whole idea of the exercise is to learn how to use the spaces in between our subject to better draw our subject. So I'm starting by measuring where these intersections are happening and kind of marking them on my drawing paper. If you keep your leaves and your drawing paper side by side and kind of aligned, you can make it a lot easier to make these measurements and see, because you're doing a direct comparison. And they should be at the same level horizontally. So that's a good way to start. And then I'm going to kind of work up the line slowly, trying to pay attention to some of the details and try to draw that shape. You can see that I've marked where the line intersects with that horizontal crosshair and also where it intersects with the edge of the page. I also marked that corner where it kind of hits the corner of the branch there and then comes around the other way. Throughout this, I'll measure my angles and distances and try to make notations, little marks on my drawing to connect together to make everything fit together the way it's supposed to. I'll slowly work negative space by negative space through the drawing, trying to put them all together, and when I'm done with each, I can shade them in. You can either shade them as you go, or you can wait and shade them all at the end. Alright, so I'm going to speed this up and show you the rest of the process here, but this is the basic idea all the way through. Try to pay attention to those spaces and get them as accurate as possible. You don't necessarily need to worry about getting a ton of detail on the lines here. You can see that the edges of the leaves are kind of broken up. But really just kind of concentrate on the larger shapes, and that should be sufficient there. And then once you get each one, or all at the end if you'd rather, you're going to shade in that negative space. That's really all there is to it. Just continue through until you get all of those negative spaces and shade them in. Learning how to draw negative spaces can be a really good tool for capturing certain things in your drawing. Sometimes when we have a complex form or something skinny like this, looking at those negative spaces instead can be a way to draw it more accurately and more easily. Ideally, when we kind of master this technique, we're going to be looking at both the positive shapes and the negative spaces. And that's it. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.